well. Hey, we're up and running. Okay, and we have a bunch of people with us by Zoom, so I won't go through everybody. I'm Martha Howell. I welcome you all. We have 2 or 3 people that I hadn't seen before, which is wonderful. We also have as our guests in the room, Krista Thorpe from Island Institute and Mark Roulette from Axiom, who will be talking to us during the meeting. And I'm the chair of the Broadband Fiber Network Committee Working Group, anyway, of Lubeck. And I'm now going to hit page up and see if it works. No, page down. Page up or down, Renee?
Down.
There we go. Agenda. Welcome introductions. We want to give you an update. We've had several of these meetings already. This is our 5th informational meeting. So we want to give you an update. We're going to be holding a lot more of these informational meetings. Things are really ramping up. And every time we talk to some of the other folks, they're all saying to us, all of us need to be talking often, frequently, and bringing information to the table, which we are doing. So we have an application for our major grant due by the 9th of November. That's huge. That's really all the work that we've been doing for the last year and more. This is where rubber starts hitting road, because we either get the money or we don't. And Mark's going to tell us more about that. And then we'll talk a little bit about why are we doing it anyway. We've talked about that repeatedly at the other meetings, but tonight we have 3 people with a point of view as to why it's important to them for Lubeck to have a fiber network. And Mark will tell us about the grant, where we are in the process, what the next steps will be, and then we'll open it to your questions. We also are asking people to sign in and sign up. Sign up. Pre-subscription. Oh yeah, we're hoping to get.
It's already on it. Just pass it down.
We're hoping to get people to sign up on the list that would be interested in having this service come to your home once it is operational, so that we'll know in advance how many we've got. This will help us with the grant process, obviously, if we know townspeople are interested. And once we get really moving forward, once we know we're moving into that grant, then we'll start coming back to some of you folks and say, okay, you want to sign up? This is how you sign up. She's going to, yeah, put headers on it. So Gene will know what he has to put down.
No, I've already signed the previous ones.
You've already signed. If you've already signed up, we don't need you twice, Gene.
Okay.
Unless you want to have 2 internets from your house.
One's
The guy in front of you would like it though. Bill, thank you.
Want a pen?
So what we're looking for is to have people who will then pre-subscribe, which will really kick off both the funding and the notice, show the notice at the state that this isn't something that, you know, 4 crazy gray-haired ladies sitting in the committee meeting dreamed up. That people really are interested in doing. Wait a minute, Renee is our token young person. we got a lot of not young persons, and Renee is the one we all look at and say, "Can you do that, Renee?"
Yes.
All right. Our committee members in the room are, I think, Nancy and Renee and me. Nancy Harrison in the back. Also members of the committee are Rachel Rubior, Denise Stone-Rule, Ben Levitt, and Rhonda Welcome. All of whom would love to be here but are unable to be tonight. Have come to many previous ones. And Mark Roulette from Axiom will be speaking to us in a little bit. There are also many helpers and interested people if you would like to be on our regular mailing list, Jason is now on that list and a few other people. Every time we have meetings, our committee meetings, material that comes into us, we're pumping it out to this email list. So if you would like to have more email in your inbox, again, let Renee know that. We'll add it to my email list. We're calling those people influencers because we figure that because you are interested in this, when the time comes and your neighbors say, "Broad, what?" you'll be able to say, "Look, it's broadband and it's fiber and it's really important. And I've been to the meetings." So if you'd like to be on that list, we'd love to have you join us. And paging down again. Update on the initiative. First, we did a bunch of research, and this means like years. People on the committee ahead of us worked on it before, tried one round, decided that wasn't going to work. This then came up, and the big deal here is the federal money. And once we get the federal money involved, where we can get major grants, that's what makes this viable for the town. The town voted. First, we put out an RFP. We got a few proposals. Axiom came through with exactly what we were looking for. They're out of Machias. They know us. We know them. So we went to the town meeting, and first we went to the select board and said, "We like Axiom." And they said, "Okay, good." But then we went to the town meeting and asked for $4.6 million. Half of that to be in grant and half of that to be in bonds or whatever, and all of it pretty squishy. It's all up to. This is the estimate from the proposal that Axiom first came to us with. Of course, they're going to put it up here. The good news that Mark is going to tell us later is that it's all coming down. Not up, down. This is a good thing.
It's election year.
It's election year. That could have something to do with it. We obtained some small startup money for outreach, for, basically licking stamps and putting them on letters and so forth, for doing some printing, for getting the news out. And of course, there are a lot of us who are just going home, printing stuff up and running it off. So there's a lot of in-kind donations happening. Both Island Institute and Connect Maine have given us startup money, $2,000 each. The other good news from Island Institute is that they're working with us on the publicity. They're kind of using Lubec to build their own templates to help some other towns, because we are a little ahead of some of the others. And they're hoping that by working with us on the publicity and how to reach people for the pre-subscription to get people on board, that they can then use that same material with other communities. So the grant is kind of a, we work with you, you work with us, which is going to be very nice for Lubec. Now we are applying for a grant through the Maine Connectivity Authority, and that will be the bulk of the funding. How much we're going to have to come up with a match, Mark's going to tell you a little bit about that. Whoops, page down, Mark. Down, not up. Okay, we now have 3 perspectives on the need for reliable internet. So I will say that, do I see Tim on there? Can you see Tim's name on there? Nope. Nope, we don't see Tim. Uh-oh, you forget us?
Tim O'Neill,
Yeah.
he asked somebody to send him the Zoom link for tonight's meeting.
Uh-oh.
The ID was for last week and does not work.
Uh-oh.
This was at 5:10.
Quick, send Tim the link. Meanwhile, do you have the link?
I do, but I don't know how to send it. I don't have his contact.
Oh, we have his contact. I have his contact. He's on our mailing list. He's on our regular mailing list. Boom.
Oh, well, this came to him from, it was connected to, yeah. with the
Looks like he
back.
just joined, actually.
Yeah. Tim, you're there. Excellent.
Got
we
it.
were worried about you, Timothy. We're going to start with Jason, if you don't mind, Jason, because he's in the room.
Yeah.
And Jason's just going to tell us a little bit quickly who he is and why this is exciting to him. And he keeps coming to these meetings.
Should I stand and go up? What's the
Sure,
size?
come on up front where the camera can see you.
Okay. So I'm Jason Doyle. I'm Mark.
Nice to see you.
I live on Coffin's Neck Road. Moved up here about a year ago from Ohio. We love it here. I have no intention of ever leaving. I work from home, so I have really two primary reasons why I want to see this project succeed, and that's one. I work with a lot of large graphic files, upload, and right now my network connection is just not really up to the task. I have LTE service for Trail Runner. They've been great, very reliable. The download speed is acceptable, but it's a 1 megabit per second upload, and it just takes forever to upload, say, a gigabit file. So it's really my only option out there. I could potentially get Starlink, but I have too many trees. There's no cable service where I'm at, so literally limited to use that for what I have now. So for people who work from home, this is like a huge leap forward into the 21st century for feedback. The second reason I would like to see it is just personal. I have a friend in Norway who I've known for many years. I believe it was over 10 years ago, he was laughing at me because I had DSL and was getting, a 6 megabit speed and couldn't even begin to do like online gaming or anything. Meanwhile, in Norway, he was paying a third of what I was paying for 100 megabit per second speed. And that was synchronous, up and down. So now here I am 10 or more years later, kind of in the same boat. And I would really love to be able to tell all my colleagues back in Cleveland in the suburbs that, hey, we're up here in Lubeck. You guys laughed at me for moving to Maine. I've got synchronous 50-50, 100-100 internet service. What do you guys? Because they don't have fiber in those places. So really professionally, though, it's important for me to have a good network connection here so that I can work from home. It was what enabled me to move here to begin with. So this would really improve that.
Thanks, Jason.
Is that good?
That's good. Yeah. And on that note, we'll move on to Tim, who is on the screen. Tim, can
Yep.
you tell why you're interested in having broadband fiber internet in Lubeck?
Sure, happy to. I'm one of those newer community members also. We moved up during COVID and I moved to North Lubeck Road. And the first thing I asked when I was looking at the property that I bought was, what is the internet connection? And they assured me that the owner assured me that they had Spectrum and that I'd be happy with the internet. And because like Jason, it's vital to me in my work that I have an internet connection, especially since I was moving up there in November of 2020 and stayed until basically December 2021, worked through the year. So I'm happy to report that the internet connection worked. I got the most expensive, highest speed that Spectrum offered. However, it was not necessarily 100% reliable, even at that high speed. And that's what I've learned a little bit when I've done some research is with the cable, the speed may be great, but the reliability isn't necessarily 100%, which they're telling us that on fiber it is. And so for me, reliability is as important as speed, because I can't drop off on the middle of a call where I'm speaking like this, it doesn't really look good for that to happen, which happened a number of times. So, so that's just the work aspect of this. But what's really attractive to me about this opportunity for the community, and again, I'm only there 2 years now. My wife is basically there all the time. I come back and forth from DC, but the opportunity to actually have match funding from the government to install a system that will benefit the entire community for a long time to come, and that eventually, hopefully, will be paid off so that the income from the system goes to the town. So it's a long-term benefit for the town. And as somebody who wants to be here for a long time, and I want my kids to come up here and be here for a long time, anything that I can do as a long-term benefit for the town, I'm really hopeful and happy to do that. And I think there are hopefully a lot of other people like me who really are transfixed by the spell that Lubec has on people. We came up here to get away from people, but at the same time, we still need to be connected. So, and I think there's that magic spell, the place that and the broadband will help us to enhance that opportunity. That's basically it.
Timothy, thank you so much. We appreciate your testimonial.
No problem.
Okay, and our third testimonial comes from a fellow who wrote to Renee in the town
Yes.
office, and she's going to read this for us.
I'll get on the camera too.
Okay.
Dear Town of Lubec, almost 40 years ago, I was introduced to Lubec, and ever since, I've not missed spending a single summer in the area. 15 years ago, we decided to build a house on Bailey's Estates because we love the area so much. Since then, we have tried to spend as much time there as possible, but unfortunately, my wife and I are still working. The good news for us is our jobs allow us to work remotely, but broadband is a necessity for that to happen. We have installed satellite internet, DSL from the phone company, and wireless internet from the new cell tower. All were inadequate for us to work. Our interest and support for the broadband experience in Lubec is so that we can spend more time in the area and enjoy the wonderful expanse of its beauty, people, and hospitality that we have come to love. Although we are summer residents and not full-time residents, we believe that the availability of broadband will enhance the whole community. Not only will it connect those that want to be connected, but will allow the generation of people that have wanted to or need to, like remote workers, be connected without having to sacrifice money or location to do so. Having grown up with dialing a phone, communicating through writing letters, and going to a store to buy things, I understand that internet is a double-edged sword. But like cable TV, cell phones, and email, the availability of broadband is an essential for many, like electricity. Although we can live without it, it sure makes life easier for those that want. With any project comes risk and reward. Of course, the risk with this proposal is what happens if not enough people buy into it for the long term. The reward is the opening of a whole new world for some, an expansion of flexibility, savings, and work-life balance for others, and the possibility of a new generation of people, businesses to experience and enjoy what I found almost 40 years ago when I first visited Lubec. Ultimately, expanding broadband will enhance everyone's life, so some indirectly and others directly. I believe it's time to take the next step in making Lubec an even better place to live. Dwayne Lowenstein, said Road, Commander, U.S. Navy, retired.
Thank you, great. Yeah. I think we ought to, put that up in engraving somewhere.
I'm not on the script, young people. We're not here.
One of the non-grade people.
I'm just saying, I grew up in the mid coast, and my family went back many generations, and incrementally has been moving a little farther east every year. So I wouldn't be surprised if my grandchildren, great grandchildren lived and moved back, just by the fact that we kind of bounced one peninsula every generation or so. But I know that a survey was done of youth in the schools in Washington County, and I'm really interested to try to glean out, what some of the young people from Lubec have said about broadband. It was done specifically about broadband from the Sunrise County Economic Council. And when I left high school in 2000, when I graduated 2005, I didn't think there was an opportunity for me in Maine to work or live. I left and I spent 9 years out of Maine and became so desperately homesick. I work for Island Institute in Rockland now, but I too now have the chance to, not having to commute an hour on either end of the day and being able to spend more time with my little one while also having my town just got fiber internet a year and a half ago, and it's just also about it is about the young people in your community and their future opportunity. And I think about my 2-year-old. I have no idea what he's gonna need to know how to do, a computer or whatever they're using in 20 years even, but I know that my fiber connection will support it because of just the longevity of that technology. So I'm a little envious of Lubec because my town didn't go with a public model. We have a private not have any say over the pricing or and we're not going to see come back into the town directly the way that this now will. So I'm very excited for this project.
Thank you, Kristen. So that's testimony number 4. For the
Non-Lubec.
Well, yeah, but the same point. And now I'm going to pull out my chair and sit down and turn the meeting over to Mark to tell us what's up with the grant.
Okay. Thank you. I'll stand so people can see me because Renee started this. So for those, many of you have heard me in the past, but I'll just reintroduce myself. My name is Mark Wolin, CEO of Axiom. I'm a half owner in the company. The original owner, the founder, Susan Corbett, still owns half the company, but she works on the nonprofit side now, National Digital X Center, working on getting people who are not comfortable with the internet, how to use the internet much more fully and leverage the internet that they use. So she does a lot of good work on that side of the equation around the state. I'm here because I responded to an RFP by the town looking for a solution to help bring fiber optics to the town. I'm excited because I have tried and have been trying to work with a lot of Washington County towns to try to bring fiber optics to them. And I've been successful in Roque Bluffs, which is the project is coming eventually. It will get built. Fiber optics, we got a USDA grant for them. And in the town of Whiting and East Machias, both have fiber built and now have connected people. Not the whole town, but a good portion of the town, funding from the CARES Act that was given to Axiom to build those projects. We're living in a time when we will never see the amount of investment in broadband ever again that we're going to have over the next 3 years. This is the time to take advantage. The federal government has decided that fiber optics cable needs to go everywhere into the United States and is putting their money where their mouth is. Billions, literally billions of dollars being put toward fiber optic cabling around the country. Every state has millions and hundreds of millions of dollars coming to it to build fiber optic cable, and Maine is no different. So the opportunity for Maine and for places like Lubec to get funding has never been greater, and they'll never be greater into the future. So there is no better time to do what you're doing or what we're doing together than right now. And that opportunity comes in the next 15 or so days. When it's due on November 9th, so there's some urgency to this. a lot of the work that Axiom's done to this point with the committee and with the town is to develop a price model for the town that would then be used for the grant. And alongside that, very important to the state, a pro forma, which is a fancy word for a revenue and expense model, that the project would be viable. And so the way that the project in a small place like Lubec is viable is by being able to leverage as much free money as possible, grant money through the state. And so while it's not completely clear yet exactly how much money we're going to ask from the state, I'm still working through the formulas and looking through the grant proposals template to be able to provide that information to you. It will be at least 50% and much more likely closer to somewhere between 70 and 80% that will be covered by grant money. So it's a really significant amount of money that's going to come from the state. It is true that I think Martha choked when she said it, a $4.6 million project. That's a lot of money for a small town like Lubec. That's a lot of money for a big town like Portland. So let's just be clear, it's a lot of money to do this, but 80% of that, most likely somewhere in that range, 70 to 80% is going to be covered by a grant. So the risk to the town is very greatly reduced. And we are very confident that given the testimonials and the work that we've done previous to now, that people want to have better internet in your town. And we've modeled that number to be 388 customers will get you basically neutral. You will never have to pay a dollar in taxes to get that, to get this up and running. It will be good for, should I not say that?
No, you should say that.
All right,
but we might say that year one, while we're doing the build out.
Oh, there is some cost in year one, that is true. So before revenue, so the model is very simple. There's a percentage of each subscriber fees that I charge for Axiom that comes back to the town to cover whatever borrowing the town does. It's as simple as that. So in order to do that, we have to generate revenue. And in the first year of the construction, we're not generating any revenue. So there's some small costs that are associated with the project that will have to be covered over the first year. That will then be made up over time and returned back to the town.
Bisexual, pansexual.
Whoops, love it. Somebody's hacking in. Okay, so at any rate, that is the model that we're applying for, and there are a number of reasons to be encouraged. First off, the state is really interested in community-driven broadband, and in this town, you are going to be considered to be community-driven. Secondly, community ownership that comes along with community-driven broadband is something that the state emphasizes in its grant process. So there's formulas that advantage you by being community-driven and community-owned. In addition to that, this model that I just described has had great success with state funding. In the last round, this exact model I used in 3 projects in the last round of funding from the state, and all 3 projects got approved. In this round, Lubec is one of 3 communities that Axiom is working with to apply. The town of Vienna and the town of Wayne are also applying under the exact same model that we're applying for in Lubec, and we expect these projects to be successful. It's possible, because it's a competitive process, that you would not get funded, but the town rightly made a vote to only move forward if you were able to get the grant, of course. So unless the grant comes through, if the grant does not come through for whatever reason, the project will basically be put on hold until we are able to find grant funding to support the project. Other than that, if the grant funding does come through, which we expect that to happen, and we will know in January. So applications due November 9th, decisions made January 1. I get this in dates, maybe it's January 6th, I don't know, I can't remember. But somewhere in early January, decisions will be made. At that point, it'll be approximately 14 months before you get connected, something around 14 to 16 months. And we can get into all the machinations of why it's going to take so long. Most of it is outside of Axiom's control. A bunch of work has to get done on the utility poles for the fiber to be put up, and it just takes a long time to get through that process. So once that's completed, we'll be able to hook people up. And in the meantime, over the next few months, hopefully, if we get the grant, we'll be turning that list of free subscribers into a real list of subscribers and taking requests for service, which will be super exciting for everybody, I think. And just one small note about the technology, and I think the gentleman, Timothy, mentioned it. You will have here essentially world-class fiber. There will be nothing that you will not rival across the world. You will have better internet connectivity than in New York City, than in all of the major cities that don't have fiber necessarily throughout this city. You will have better connectivity than Portland, which I know brings a smile to some people in the town. You will have better connectivity than Portland, and that connectivity will meet your demands as demands increase for the next 20 to 30 years, literally. You will have a system in place that is generationally will affect your children and grandchildren and be there for them into the future. So it's a really, really exciting project from my perspective. And there are not many times that small communities get to have this kind of impact in their community. And so I hope you take advantage of it. I hope you're with me on this because we're super excited about serving you. And let me tell you, we're a for-profit. Let me also say we're a for-profit company, Axiom. So we're going to make money here, just to make sure we're clear. We are going to try not to lose money. We're going to work hard at that. But we are very much community-minded, and we are very much embedded in Machias, where our headquarters is in the communities here in Washington County. And we're really, really excited to be working with Lubec to try to bring this here. It's one of the most beautiful places on earth. You already know that. You all roll your eyes because your economy here is a little difficult. We're going to try to help with that with the fiber. I hope it helps a little bit and keeps your kids and your grandkids here a little bit longer too. So looking forward to it. Happy to answer questions about specifics. We've mapped everything out so we can answer a lot of the questions that you might have as individual subscribers, so we can answer those questions or anything else you want to ask me about.
Mark, maybe you could touch on the benefits of early subscriber.
Yeah. So one of the things that we've done right now, Axiom has over 1,000 subscribers across a number of projects that have signed up for a service, waiting for the fiber to be built. And this is a model that we use in every community. So we ask people to try to sign up early. And the reason we ask for that is because it makes for a much more rational build out of the system and saves money in the build out because you know where you're going and you know where your subscribers are. So you can build out in a way that gets them service as quickly as possible. And it also creates sort of an economy of scale. If you know that on Pick a Road, there are 20 subscribers, pre-subscribers there, you know that when you build there, you're going to be able to hook up those subscribers very quickly. So there's a lot of benefit to having pre-subscribers in the design of the system and in the operational sort of work that needs to happen to get people connected. It just makes for a much, much more robust and a less expensive way. So every time this is going to happen, it won't happen probably, I hope, in this room, but somebody's not going to say they want this until their next door neighbor actually gets connected and they talk to them and they say, oh my God, it's the best thing I've ever had. You have to have it. And then they call, right? And they say, I want to get connected too. That means a crew has to be, if they're in town, has to come from another part of town, come back to where they've already built and connect that customer. So it creates a lot more expense to do that. So knowing upfront as many free subscribers as possible is going to be super important. The second point to that is typically select boards are nervous just about these kinds of things because they want to know that the demand is there. So having pre-subscribers ahead of time really helps the select board get comfortable and other decision makers in the town to know that, yeah, we're going to spend this money, but there's real demand and that people are going to take service and we're excited about that.
But what are we doing for the subscriber? these pre-subscribers, I think what Renee was asking.
Oh,
the-
okay. The third thing is you get to get connected for free.
Ta-da! Response.
Sorry, Renee. Long Mark will let answer. Sorry about that. Apologies. It's free if you sign up early. Yeah, so the grant, we build in subscriber connections into the grant. So the cost of subscriber connections into the grant. So if you sign up for service early, you are one of the homes that will be eligible for a free install during the initial construction phase. Once the construction phase is completed, 14 to 16 months after the January decision of the grant, and we leave, and you call for service, there's going to be a cost for you to get connected at that point, because we have to bring crews back into town. We have to get you connected. There are costs to the materials inside of the house and to the fiber that gets connected to your house. There's some costs there. So typically, we are around $299 in a simple connection situation. A lot of times people live on private roads or down places that are much more challenging. That price can go up from that $299 simple connection from the nearest pole to your house if you have a complicated situation. So be weary or be happy, sign up early, and you'll be able to take advantage of that free installation. Sorry, Ray.
Who's next?
Great.
Basically, you want to do with broadband fiber what Roosevelt did with electricity, the rural electrification program that brought electricity to a water rural Maine.
That's correct. And the reason that Roosevelt got that done was because there was massive subsidies. Because if you remember, this started emulating coming out of the urban centers. Thank you. No, you still didn't say it right, but anyway, coming out of the urban centers. And then there was a need, obviously, as that expanded, to get to rural areas, and that was much more expensive to service those locations. So just as then and now, the federal government is subsidizing greatly those connections into rural places, which really don't have a business case. You would have fiber already if there was a business case for it, right? A private company would come in and build it, but they're not. And the reason they're not doing that is because you need a very large subsidy to make the numbers work, which is why the federal government's doing that and the state is doing that.
The hardware going in, or the hardware planned for, as far as this network, the models you've given are offering service at up to, I think, 250 MBIS. What would it support for everybody? Looking 20 years down the road and 100 MBIS is only barely adequate. Could everybody be served at a gigabit with this system?
Yes, so everybody on the day one can get a gigabit over a gigabit, download and upload. That's available if you're willing to pay for it. You can have that. 20 years down the road, or 15 years down the road, or actually even on day one, there'll be a small number of consumers, if they want it, that can get 10,000 megs over 10,000 megs on day one with a little change of equipment at the house, $200 change of equipment. So 10,000 megs. Yeah. So all of you who are interested in 8K, holographic television, that's coming, by the way. You're not going to have a television anymore. It's going to be right in your living room like it's live. You can see it there. That's coming. You're going to have that. You'll be able to handle that just fine with the system. One of the great things about fiber is the capacity of the glass, which is what fiber is, it's glass, is essentially unlimited. So they are increasingly pushing more and more and more through that glass. And the architecture of the glass, of the cabling that's in your town will never change. Once it's up, it'll stay there for 30, 40 years. And really, the electronics on the end are what's going to change to push more and more data through. So eventually, there will be a need, perhaps, we'll see. I don't have a crystal ball, but there will be a need to go to 10,000. Everybody will go to 10,000 megs over 10,000 megs eventually, I would think, because applications and everything else are going to get built around the capacity of the fiber over time. So it's just gonna increase. And demand, if you look at demand curves now for how people use the internet, it's like exponentially, it's doubling every 6 months, so.
Nonetheless, 10 gig for all survivors, not subscribers.
Okay.
For all subscribers at this point is not practical because, the auxiliary equipment is going to depend on, but is a gig for everybody conceivable with the hardware that's going in, including the on-pole switches and.
100%.
Yeah, thank you.
From day one. And by the way, just for everybody's edification, we guarantee our speeds at Axiom. So if you subscribe for 100 over 100, you should get 100 over 100, 24/7, 365. And so the fiber allows for that, which is very exciting. So a lot of what happens with a cable system is you have fluctuations in use and in demand, and it fluctuates in a way that makes it quite unreliable over time, especially at high use times when everybody's drawing on that signal. It makes it much more challenging. Fiber doesn't have that same limitation from a technology standpoint. So it really allows for a very robust system at your home or connection at your home. The other thing about fiber that's really interesting is it's something called attenuation, which is a cool word for the power that the signal to reach your home. A lot of the problem with copper signal is it diminishes over time because it's based on electricity as opposed to pulses of light. So that pulse of light gets to your home faster. It also gets there with much higher strength. So it just increases the reliability in the user experience. It's just really a big, huge technology jump and difference over anything copper-based, which is what your town has right now.
Anybody else? Anybody out there in screen land? Oh, there's a hand up in the corner, I think.
Yes. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Hi, everybody. My name is Molly Gerunser, and my husband and I have property off of the Straight Bay Road on a little private dirt road, Edgecombe Point, and then another little road off of that. So my question is, there is power all the way down. It is old power poles. And I was curious, and for my edification, and I'm sorry if this is a repeat question for you, if the grant is approved and the fiber and Axiom deploys all the fiber, are they deploying to every single street and address in totality to all Lubec residents? And then those that aren't pre-subscribers will then eventually sign on. So I was just curious about that timeline, curious about, is it full deployment? And then what about these aging utility poles? Thank you.
Very good question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thanks.
Okay, great. So the first answer is yes. 100% of the homes will be able to get service 100% at any time into the future, because the main line system will be built down every single road. Now, you are on a private road, so if you do not sign up for service initially, and there are 3 poles to go to your home, you will have to pay for me to license those 3 last poles to get to your home. If you sign up for service initially, those 3 poles or all of the poles coming down to your home will get fiber optics put on them, and you will get service. You can ask a follow-up question to that in a second. Second thing is, you asked about aging poles or poles that may need to be replaced. We have built in to our project cost replacement poles, because that is a true and something that is an expense and is required. Each pole in your town will be evaluated for its ability and safety to support a new fiber line on it. And if that pole is required to be changed over, there is money built into my project to replace poles. So if you have poles that are aged or cannot accept the fiber optics, there is an opportunity for that to get taken care of so that you can get fiber optics. Okay, you can now ask a follow-up question to my confusing first answer if you would like.
No, that was very, no, that was great. Thank you very much. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't you want this to happen? And why wouldn't you want to be a pre-subscriber? And so, as I'm sure, obviously, as into our road, you're talking over a mile. So we are talking more than just one pole. And I didn't know if there's a caveat of, oh, you're only allowed up to 6 poles in or 3 poles in, or is it a blanket? All pre-subscribers, all fiber coming through with pole replacement if necessary.
Correct. Second answer is correct. Yes, pre-subscribers all get a free install
What do you?
with pole replacements as necessary. Absolutely.
Regardless of how deep you need to go in on that private
Yes,
road.
I'm sorry. I'm saying it out loud. Regardless of how deep you have to go to get to that
And it's
customer.
being recorded.
recorded.
We get you on tape.
Well, that's fabulous. That is just tremendous. And it is a tremendous opportunity for everyone. And I do want to echo the young lady and for children, it's the great equalizer, and for the children, in school, online learning, it's incredible. So thank you.
Go online to your town office, to the Lubec town office, and go under broadband, and you can sign up right there as a pre-subscriber.
I already have.
You already have.
Thank you.
All right, we got about 10 more minutes here if anybody wants to use it.
And I'm just one follow-up question, Mark.
Yes, Tim.
Just if you could just, what is I might have missed it. What's the deadline for pre-subscription? Because that's obviously critical, I think, for a lot of people to understand what that deadline is. And what is that deadline?
Well, once you get awarded the grant, so in January, once you get awarded the grant, we will start taking pre-subscription requests. And over the next year, people who subscribe will be considered will get served. So typically, we take those requests right up until we start building. So it could be as much as 14 months when you have an opportunity. So plenty of time to ask questions, plenty of time to explore what your options are, plenty of time for me to answer all of those private road questions, because those are always the first questions that come up. I live in a very difficult place. Underground utilities is another one that always comes up, so we'll be able to answer all of those questions. Pricing and all of the other things that, what does the equipment look like in my house? What do you have to do at my house? All of those questions get answered through that process. And when you call Axiom, we will walk you through all of those things over that next, let's call it a year for just make it simple, but you have about a year or so.
So right now, what we're asking people is to put their name on the list, no money, no hassle, not calling Axiom, but just calling the town office and getting your name on the, I want to sign up list. And then we will use that list, start getting back to those people, and also start taking the pre-subscription stuff once we know the project's going forward. Then we're going to start asking for money.
Yeah, we do ask for deposits.
I just have a technical, I don't know, like fiber down the street. Do you fiber then physically to the home?
Yes.
Is that a new process as opposed to fiber on the street to coax?
Yeah, it's a good question. No, fiber all the way through. So fiber to the home, usually 2-count fiber of fiber to the home typically, because it's a direct connection to the mainline fiber. So yeah, it'll be fiber all the way through.
So from I think good for you on an advertiser standpoint, but from a
competitive standpoint, if somebody's just one pole, so, within 75 or 100 feet of the street, they're on fiber, the coax theoretically should make too drastic, but can as we get into these speeds. Is the unreliability of the wired competitor spectrum in that, from a good point, though they got a crap load of money, they just don't want to spend it? Or is it easy for them to just go, oh crap, and okay, now we're gonna do this, and then we get into a competitive market of certainly spectrum nationally that would probably have more private funding available down the line.
Like billions of dollars, you mean?
Like billions and billions of.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, so I think two things. One is the private incumbent providers of service, whether it's CCI, Consolidated, or Spectrum, have been very reluctant to overbuild their network as it exists because it is a cash cow now. And as you know, I think we all know, it's relatively a monopoly situation for cable TV. The three major providers in the United States of cable TV do not overlap anywhere. That's not by coincidence. They divvied up the United States, and so they do feel threatened by a fiber optic network and could try to improve their service, which I think they will do, not just here, but they'll do it across the United States, everywhere, and across Maine. What our advantage has been is that the symmetrical fiber service, they have not to date replaced their systems with full fiber systems. So they have increased their download speeds, which they could have done many years ago, but refused to do it, or didn't tell you they were going to do it, or said they couldn't do it. Well, it turns out, miracle of miracles, they can do it, and are increasingly doing so in towns where fiber is getting built. That said, what I would say in response to that from a competitive nature for fiber is you have the opportunity to not just have a fiber system that is relatively competitive in pricing, but it also allows you to save money because you can also, not only can you move to a streaming service and to get all of your same content that you can get on cable and thousands and millions more of programming that you can get by streaming rather than buying fixed cable price packages, but you can also save money on phone. And because the phone that you get now, if you're buying triple play, is quite expensive, even though they pretend that it's not. It's actually quite expensive for what you get. You can get it, you can either use your cell phone for free, if you have a smartphone, or using the internet, even if you have poor cellular service at your house. So you can use it to receive calls just as you would your regular phone line, or or send calls just like you would normally. And so you can save a lot of money doing that. And you can also save money on you also get the benefit of that symmetrical service on the internet, which allows you to do so much more than a non-symmetrical service, which is that anything Spectrum gives you will never be equal because it will never be symmetrical unless they put in fiber, And our experience so far in Maine has been they've not done that anywhere.
I'm not saying I'm a fan of Spectrum.
I'm not.
I used to work for some of these people and they've never done me.
No, but
So-
your point is taken.
Yeah, the other question is, do they have, maybe it has nothing to do with that, but do they have the opportunity to seek some of these funds from the federal government?
Yes, and they have increasingly not. The last round, they won several projects of line extension projects. So using their current fiber footprint and then expanding it to other parts of towns, more in southern Maine. And they refused, once they got awarded, they refused to follow they weren't going to follow the guidelines that were required by the state, so they turned all the money back in. So they do have that opportunity, but they have not taken advantage of it in Maine to this point.
I'm currently on Spectrum. How will this affect that? Will retire, replace it?
you can absolutely 100% keep your Spectrum connection and not take this connection.
But I want to keep it, I want beyond this. I'm a pre-subscriber.
So, okay, so if you want fiber, we would run fiber following if wherever you're located, following your pole line.
Yeah.
Your utility pole line, and from the closest pole, it will follow the electrical line to the side of your house.
Yeah.
And that's how you will get your fiber. And then you can cancel your Spectrum service if you so choose.
Thank
Or
you.
keep it. Or keep it if you want.
You can keep your cable TV and have your internet over the fiber, if that's what you want to do.
Of course, it's gonna cost you a lot.
Not very complicated.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? We're now coming up on select board time, and we don't want to be the obstruction to.
No, you don't.
No, we don't.
No, you don't.
I'm hungry.
Is that a
Do
select
not-
board member speaking?
That is a select board member speaking.
Well, there we go, okay.
Okay, folks, thank you so
Well,
much.
we don't
for
want to
coming.
offend them.
If anybody wants to stay for the select board meeting, this is the place to be.
Yeah, as usual, don't rush your way up the door.
Oh, just because you're playing second fiddle.
No stampedes, no stampedes.
There we go.
How are you?
Thank you.